The soldiers of both North and South that served in the American Civil War obviously served with a number of reasons in mind. One such factor that is often overlooked is the idea of religion or spiritualism, factors which many of them had grown up with in their youth. Whether a recruit was Protestant or Catholic or Jewish, many of them served with a similar conviction in mind, regardless of what side they were on. They all thought that God was on their side. And after all, both the Union and the Confederacy hosted national days of prayer, national days of fast, and numerous religious services. But what motivated these religiously devout people to embark in this wholesale slaughter of fellow Americans? It's an important question for us to consider, even 150 years later. There are many people throughout the North who go to war for numerous reasons. A small number of them include those that are opposed to the institution of slavery, known as abolitionists. They believe that this war comes about as a form of punishment coming down from God for the sins of slavery and for allowing this nation that prides itself on freedom from allowing it to grow and expand into new territories. But for a large portion of the Northern people, they think of even higher ideals in mind. The idea of union served as a beacon of sorts to individual liberty and religious freedom. And Northerners believed that if they could win this war, that they could not only perfect their own society, but pave the way for God's kingdom here on earth. At the same time, Confederates thought that their new nation was the one true Christian nation, and Confederate leaders were not hesitant at all to invoke God's name in their call, either in their Constitution or in their national motto, which was Dio Vindici, meaning with God as our defender. At the same time, Southerners used numerous Bible passages to promote and defend the institution of slavery, attempting to assert a moral and spiritual backbone to the institution that defined Southern society. Guiding these hundreds of thousands of soldiers out in the field in order to provide spiritual and moral comfort were perhaps as many as 4,000 chaplains of numerous denominations. Some preachers and ministers decided to share the views of their respective countries from the pulpit. Others would actually join troops and go out into the field, some of them even taking up weapons or leading men into combat. One such general was Confederate leader Leonidas Polk, who led men into battle, albeit not that successfully. But even so, like so many of his fellow Confederate soldiers, he too gave up his life in the name of his God and country. Perhaps the most famous of these chaplains is the Catholic priest depicted behind me, a priest by the name of Father William Corby. At the Battle of Antietam in September 1862, as well as the Battle of Gettysburg right here in 1863, he went before his fellow members of the Irish Brigade, and he spoke to them before they were being deployed into battle. In what was perhaps one of the final moments of many of their lives, he went before them, shared in a moment of prayer, gave them the final act of absolution, giving them forgiveness for any of their sins, and he also gave a stern warning to any of those shirkers or potential deserters who turned away in the face of the enemy, that they would not be welcomed into the gates of heaven. This is a very revealing moment in regard to the religious lives of Civil War soldiers. It tells us not only what they were doing and thinking in the final moments of their lives or in this desperate hour of their lifetime, it also tells us about the times in which they grew up, the devout religious societies that they lived in, and the strong conviction that they not only had in their country, but in their God.